Hello, welcome to Old Man Energy. I'm your host, Flint Anderson. Today, we're going to be talking about integrity, accountability, and failure. So let's jump right into it. One of the things that a lot of people struggle with in today's society, especially young men, is integrity, which is simply doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Seems like a very simple concept, but without being taught that at home, without us learning it from our peers, and without anybody around to enforce it, integrity is often the first thing that slips. And this leads to not only just the outward signs of what lack of integrity has, which people don't trust you, you're seen as a liar, just different things like that, but it also messes with you internally. Because I really don't believe anybody wants to not be a person of integrity, wants to do bad things whenever nobody's watching, wants to do things that are not in alignment with their goals or their morals or their principles. Nobody really wants to do that. So when you have lack of integrity and you do not have the personal discipline to enforce it, then you have issues mentally, internally, and externally, and you don't want to deal with that. Again, guys, remember, I'm not a doctor. This is just things that I've dealt with over the years and some tips and tricks on how to deal with it and how to make sure that you don't have an issue. So the first thing in dealing with integrity is accountability. And you can be accountable to somebody else. When we're younger, we're accountable to our parents, if our parents are there and if they're present. When we're older, sometimes we're accountable to a boss, but mostly we need to be accountable to ourselves. And until we learn to be accountable to ourselves, then we can't really affect any long-term change. So what does accountability mean? Accountability just means doing what you say you're going to do and taking responsibility for your own actions. That's it. Taking responsibility for everything in your life, not just your own actions. Integrity can be achieved by taking responsibility for your own actions. But peace in your life can only be achieved by taking accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. As an adult, as a man in today's world, the words, "it's not my fault," should never leave your lips. It doesn't matter whether it's your fault or not. If it's happened in your life, either you did it or you're having to pay the consequences for somebody else doing it. It's the exact same as if you were driving down the street and somebody T-boned your car. You know what? That's not your fault if the other person was in the wrong. But you still have to pay the consequences for that. You still have to accept responsibility for getting your car fixed. If you're injured, if someone else in your family is injured, you have to accept responsibility for all of that. And the words, "it's not my fault," do absolutely nothing other than make you look weak and try and get you to shove off responsibility onto somebody else. Ultimately, you're going to have to take responsibility for it anyway, in one way or another. It's easier when we don't have accountability, especially for ourselves, to just kick the can down the road and figure something else will happen. Well, you will always pay the consequences for those decisions. They will never go away. They'll always just be different. Sometimes harder, sometimes, you know what, sometimes maybe it works out. I don't know. I've never had it work out, but sometimes maybe it'll work out for you. I don't know. The important thing is not to blame others. If you've done something, then admit it, own it, and then move on. Deal with the discomfort, because it's a hell of a lot easier to deal with the discomfort of something that you've done, whether it was intentionally or non-intentionally, just by admitting it, apologize if necessary, and then accept responsibility for it and move on. The consequences are much easier to deal with than lying about it, which everybody knows you're lying when you're lying. It's not a big secret. You might get away with it once, sometimes twice, but no more than that. And that too will mess with you mentally, because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy that you're having to remember who you told what to, or which version of which story you told. It always comes out. The truth is so much easier. And mentally, it allows you to be stronger. It allows you to be more stable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to deal with some of those situations, and they suck. But if you're not shoving responsibility off onto other people, you're admitting your mistakes and your faults, and then you're moving on and dealing with it as best you can. You know what? People are going to respect you. They may be mad at you, but so what? That's okay. If somebody's mad at the truth, that's more about them than anything else. Or you know what? Maybe it's something you did. Maybe it's a choice you did, and they got mad at you because it was a bad choice. Well, okay. If you start making a good one, whether they believe you or not, doesn't matter at that point. They'll get over being mad as long as you're consistent and you act with integrity moving forward. Mistakes are just that. They're mistakes. They're not the end of the world. They're not failure. Failure is truly just giving up and not moving on at all. Failure is lack of accountability. for your actions and just allowing circumstances to plow over you without actually doing anything about them. Heard a quote the other day. I don't know who said it, but said, "Don't wait for the storm to end to start making a difference. See what you can do in the rain." And I love that quote. And if you hear this and that was your quote, please let me know who you are so I can give you proper credit for that, because I have not been able to get that out of my head for the last week. I heard it on just a motivation mix or something. I don't even remember where, but yeah, don't, if you know that there's things that you need to do, that you need to start straightening up, that you need to start doing better, that you need to start being more accountable, then don't wait until things are better or the exact right time. Just start doing it. You will make some mistakes, but it's better to make a mistake of doing something with integrity and with accountability than to make a mistake where you sit around waiting forever, because you do not have as much time as you think that you have. When you do make a mistake, whenever you've made a bad choice, when you've made a bad decision, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Just fix it. Figure out the best way to fix it, admit it, and move on. And guys, I struggle with this as much as the next person, because we all have an ego, and especially in our loved ones' eyes, we don't want to be weak. We don't want to be seen as less than perfect. I know I don't. It drives me nuts. It pisses me off. So when I do make a mistake, it's hard as hell for me to admit it and to move on and just say the words. But you know what? When I do say the words and I move on, I feel better. Don't always do it in the heat of the moment. Sometimes I got to come back later and go, you know what? You were right. I messed up, or I was wrong about that, or whatever I need to say, and then move on. That's not great, but it's better than the alternative. It's still better than lack of integrity, because at least then you're making it right. And we're all working through this. Nobody does this perfectly. Some guys do it better than others, but nobody does it perfectly. Remember, and I'm going to repeat this one more time, the definition of integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching. The definition of accountability is accepting responsibility for not only your actions, but everything that happens in your life. That's true accountability. And failure is simply to stop trying. It's not a mistake. It's not failing to do something. It's not succeeding to do something the first time. It's not succeeding to do something and then never trying again. That's the definition of failure. And our schools have taught us over the years, and our parents and everybody else has taught us, not everybody else, I apologize. There's some of you out there that did not do that. We tried to be these parents, but taught us that mistakes are bad, that mistakes are something you can't recover from, that you have to get that A. If you get a B, well, it doesn't mean go try harder. It means, my God, you're not good enough to get an A. What's wrong with you? If you get that failing grade, if you don't pass that project, school punishes mistakes instead of encouraging mistakes, but you cannot learn unless you make mistakes. Nobody started off good at anything. If you think back to when you learned to ride a bicycle, you fell off, you fell off, you fell off. Most of you can't remember when you started walking, but it was the same thing. The goal, the dream was bigger than the failure that you took to get there. It didn't matter. You just got up and did it again. You got up and did it again until you figured it out. Life is like that. That's exactly what life is like. Failure only occurs when you stop trying. You can have literally everything ripped away from you. They can't take the knowledge that's in your head, and they can't take the breath. My wife, Des, says, "I can't take my birthday." So I haven't heard her say that in a while, but that's what she used to say. And I think it's a very profound statement. It's like, you know what? You can stand there and lose everything and start over again if you needed to. But if you lay down and you just quit, well, that's true failure. Mistakes are just mistakes and moving forward. So remember what the difference between integrity and accountability and failure is, and how they all work together. This will help you move forward. And this is not something that requires a learning curve, and nothing that I teach really requires a learning curve. It requires some practice, but it's not something that you have to build on skill A, B, and C to do. You just have to decide tomorrow that you're going to start being the person that you see in your head and move forward with it. And there's going to be people out there that don't understand. That's okay. You can let them. That's about them. That's not about you. There's going to be people out there that you're going to make uncomfortable. And I'm in one of these seasons right now. And even at 50 years old, I had a profound mindset shift. It's like, man, I don't have as much time as I thought I did. I've got a butt ton of goals I haven't reached yet. I'm going to have to do something different. I'm going to have to become a different person, or maybe more of the person that I really am. And I'm still trying to work that out in order to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. And there's a lot of people out there don't understand that. That's all right. I don't need them to understand it. They're not in my head, and I don't really care. That's the attitude that you've got to take. And that sounds a little dark, but it's not when you think about it. You have to be loyal to yourself, you have to be loyal to your family, and you have to take accountability for all of that. Stand up and be the man that your family knows you are. Be the man that your wife sees and saw whenever she decided to marry you, or your girlfriend, or whatever your relationship status is. So I'm going to reiterate one more thing, and that is long-term mistakes, blaming others for them is the same thing as blaming others for short-term immediate mistakes. It just takes longer to do it and takes longer to engage with it. So when you sit down and you make this analysis, you just draw a line. And this is exactly what I did. It's like, you know what? I'm not doing any of this stuff that I've been doing wrong anymore. I'm going to start doing this correctly. I'm going to start doing, I didn't really have a lot of things that I was doing wrong, but I had a lot of things that I wasn't doing, or that I wasn't doing good enough, or that I wasn't focusing on. And in my mind, that was doing wrong, because that was not taking accountability for the responsibility that I had to my family and my dreams. So I looked at that as doing wrong. And when I say I'm not going to be that person anymore, that's part of it. That's part of stepping up and just going, okay, well, this is going to be uncomfortable, but let's get on with it. So stop being a petulant child who blames everybody else for everything else. Decide today that you're going to take control of your life and your body, your business and your mind, and do it. You know, let's say you hate getting up and you don't like the fact that your boss tells you when to go to work. Well, so what? If you've got to get up at 6 o'clock to be to work on time, get up at 5:55, just for the pure joy of doing something because you chose to do it, not because somebody else chose to do it. I did that when I still worked a corporate job, and I got so much freedom from that one little act of defiance that it's defined my life over the past 20 years. Probably longer than that, probably closer to 30 years. Those little things where you take accountability, if it's something you have to do and you may not want to do it, well, you know what? You can either change your circumstance, or you can find a way to own your own circumstance in that. And if you're in the middle of a shitstorm right now, well, then just keep working, figure out a way out of it, and keep going. Who cares? It's not going to matter long term. They can't take your birthday away from you. So work through it, figure out a way to get out of it, and move on. I appreciate all of you being here. I know this is a short podcast, but I really felt that this is good information. I needed to get it out there. If you guys want to share part of your story, give it to us in the comments below, and let's get some discussion going. If you're struggling with figuring out how to be accountable and how to have integrity, well, reach out to me either via DM or on one of the social platforms. You'll have all the links, and let's have a conversation. Let's see if one of my programs will help you get skills that you need, or maybe you just need to be around a group of guys that's all moving forward at the same blast. That's fine too. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media. I'll catch you guys next week. Love y'all. Peace.